In this video, I'm gonna share 9 mistakes you want to be sure to avoid on your trip to Europe. Mistakes that will cost you money, waste your time, and even make you look rude without you even knowing it. Just some commonalities along the way in terms of questions and mistakes being made. So the purpose of this video is to help you avoid those mistakes and hopefully give you some useful tips along the way. Some noteworthy things we're going to talk about are money, transportation, how to design an itinerary, and a few other blunders that you want to avoid. The first big mistake revolves around how to get cash for your trip to Europe. You definitely don't want to use the currency exchange at the airport when you arrive at your destination. They charge crazy fees, and it's going to cost you big time. What I always tell people to do, and what I always personally do myself, is go to a bank in my destination country and use their ATM. The next big mistake I see people make when they travel to Europe is not trying to learn at least a little bit of the language. Learning at least a few basic phrases of the country or countries you'll be visiting can make life a lot easier. You'd be surprised how much learning just a handful of phrases can improve your confidence, speed things up for you, and increase your street cred with locals. Some great basic phrases to learn in any country that you're going to visit. Duolingo, Babbel. Probably my favorite and the method that's worked best for me is the Pimsleur method, which I think it was really effective because it revolved around hearing and speaking rather than reading and writing. Which makes sense, right? On your trip, you're probably not going to do a whole lot of writing in the local language. A tremendous mistake when visiting Europe is ignoring public transportation. Europe has an amazing, comprehensive, and generally efficient transportation network with trains, buses, trams, metros that can get you around pretty quickly and cheaply. Opting for public transport is often more economical and convenient, and it also gives you the authentic experience of traveling like a local. Speaking as an American, I think there are many cases where we're just used to renting a car or having to get a taxi or an Uber. It's just the default. But in Europe, there could only be some cases where that's your best option. In fact, in many cases, it's going to be the worst option. In cities, parking is really hard to come by and it's ridiculously expensive. In a lot of cases, a train is going to be a pretty affordable way to get around. Not always. A bus, very cheap way to get around. And look, there are definitely cases where the car is going to be your best option. You want to take this side trip or this day trip. A big mistake to avoid when traveling to Europe is overstuffing your itinerary. It can be really tempting when you first visit Europe to try to go everywhere and see everything, but it's just a recipe for disaster. My very first trip to Europe, I visited like 9 or 10 countries in 32 days, which is an average of like 3 days per country. And in some countries, I visited more than one city, which is even less time. Let me ask you, would you try to visit all 50 US states in 50 days? Like, other than for the achievement of doing that? No, probably not. Why? Because you wouldn't actually be seeing those places. You'd be seeing the inside of your car or a plane. flip side of all of this is not having a game plan at all, and that's actually a mistake I see all too commonly as well. I know people who have literally spent thousands of dollars on plane tickets and lodging only to go to a new destination and sit in a bar and drink all day long. Now, maybe you do actually have intentions to go out and see something, but you haven't researched the logistics or the timing of how or when to do those things. Many of the major tourist sites in Europe sell tickets in advance, and many of them sell out weeks or even months in advance. So it's best to do your research way ahead of time. And don't assume you'll be able to just show up and walk in. I like to try and get those skip the line tickets in advance anyways because I don't really like standing in line. In that same vein, it's also always worth it to research and try to get reservations for any of the restaurants that you might care about dining at. Another big mistake I see when people visit Europe, especially for the first time, is not expecting things to be different. I don't mean knowing every little thing that will be different. I mean not expecting that some things. For example, you're usually going to have to pay for water. Refills, free refills, not really a thing. Ice is a possibility, but you're usually going to have to ask for it. McDonald's and Starbucks and Hard Rock Cafe. I think part of travel, at least European travel, right? Because we're not just going and staying at a beach resort in Florida. Make an effort to try the local food and embrace the unique differences. Even if you don't love all the nuances and idiosyncrasies, think of it like a game. A big mistake travelers make when visiting Europe is not taking time to research the local customs and etiquette. A great example of this is meal times in Spain. If you're trying to eat lunch at noon, you're probably going to be eating alone. Lunch is at 2 p.m. Dinner is going to be starting around like 9. Tipping is a perfect example of this. In many table service restaurants across Europe, tipping is much more modest than what you might be used to. Another huge mistake I see is assuming that Europeans are rude or that they don't like you. This is completely false. As a U.S. traveler, I would say one of the top 5 questions I am always asked by people who live here is if people were nice to us while we were gone. Like, there's this prevailing belief that the entire world just hates America. A big mistake I see travelers make when they visit Europe is not leveraging local guides and experiences. Some of my fondest memories from all of my European adventures come down to authentic local experiences I couldn't have otherwise had.
Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all a great day.